Well, because I had to replace him.
Well,
Supposed to be
yeah.
chairman.
Well, we didn't want that to happen again, that somebody could come in and say they didn't want to be chairman. That's why you got.
On the resolution, it has Dan as vice.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, must be.
But, oh, yeah, I did see that.
Vice chairman. Chairman, vice.
You're right. It's not that
Yeah,
much. It started doing updates now.
yeah. It might not get done by the time we can go.
We're going old school.
Yeah.
Where did money come from? I wonder. This was at like 500,000 last week.
I thought it was, we must have got it somewhere in your house.
So
I don't really know.
that's recently with that Samsung phone.
Doug,
Yeah.
are you working on something?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to make a recording again, so it's easier. She's coming late.
No. Doesn't the YouTube thing record?
It does, but it's a little tinny. I know she would hit.
I should go into settings.
See what she would have.
We're not home.
We're done.
We're not home today.
Unless it's them wanting to give us money.
Yeah, right.
Or not.
What else do you want to know?
I just wonder where our money came from here in the general fund. This is like 500 and some thousand last week, the general fund.
See, the ARPA money's gone,
So it
finally
went,
moved up there, and then just our natural collections from pulling taxes.
so it did finally go from there to there.
Yeah.
DM from DOT.
Gotcha.
We're about ready to roll there.
Doesn't seem like thirsty. I woke up.
What was this? That was a bad dream.
That would be a bad dream. Real bad.
Oh, Lord.
Hooks eat on threads. Did you see
Yeah, I
that?
saw that.
What?
Hooks eat on threads.
Yeah, we'll be addressing that in executive at the end of the meeting. Thus far.
You did, thank you. No, I haven't, sent it out to the I hope that wasn't back up there, but I didn't.
Read them.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's,
Want to call the meeting to order? Election of chairman?
I nominate Jim
I second.
Eschenbach.
Eschenbach. I further move the
Can you
nomination
second
cease.
still yet?
Yeah, I can second.
Oh.
I'm getting rid of it. Well, okay, I will take my second away. Somebody else can second.
I'm ready.
Oh, I guess I'll second it. I was good at sticking with it, but.
Doug, the second part of my motion was that it cease, the nomination cease.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none?
Right, I guess the next item is the election of a vice chairman. The resolution that we will be voting on states that Dan Jensen is next in line.
I nominate Dan.
I'll second.
No other
I
nominations?
move the nomination cease.
Motion nomination cease. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Do we want to, should we just go through that resolution?
Sure. It's resolution 24-04, which is the reorganization of the county commission. And so if y'all want to take a couple minutes to review that.
If you don't mind, we will start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance.
Oh yeah, I'm jumping ahead of you, sorry.
There you go. All those who would like to join, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as far as the consent agenda goes, you're gonna see a link to the following things. The Department of Revenue signed off on our budget, so we're not gonna go back and change any part of that budget resolution for the county. The Register of Deeds provided their financial report for December as well as the year-end report. You can look at those. And then the sheriff's activity report, which I forgot to link in the meeting last week. As far as approvals go, there's the claims and vouchers, the minutes of the December 28th meeting. And the reason it says pending is because there's language in there for the DOT bridge replacement. And that phone call was the DOT saying that they're satisfied with the change in the language, but they actually need it in those minutes. So if you're okay with that, it's just, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I put some stuff in italics that added more definition to the way I described it originally. So it doesn't change the context of the minutes, it just adds a few words here and there. So if you're okay with that, what I would do is then go back to those minutes, rewrite them, because they need the portion that has the motion, the second, and all that business. So we would actually go back, fix that as opposed to having the amendment in the second set of minutes.
So are we going to leave these out of the consent agenda?
No, you can still approve that. The only difference would be is that I'll be bringing back those other minutes for you to ratify. And there's the quarterly report from emergency management, which is now reflects the Hand/Buffalo County District. There's a purchase order in the file for the vehicle at Land Motors, and if you're not opposed to it, we can expedite that purchase by getting your authority to write that check tomorrow. Otherwise, or today, otherwise we would do it tomorrow. So the last thing is the housing contract for prisoners in Beetle County.
Which went up how much?
So that'd be
Yeah, $10.
$10.
So 10? It was worse than that.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes.
Now we are to the resolution 24-01.
Are there any departures there other than the chairman and vice chairman assignments?
There's just a few wording differences. Jim actually looked at that. If you want to just summarize what you had for changes, none of them were really significant.
The one was posting the official minutes for the meeting. South Dakota law does require that they are visible for 24 continuous hours before our meeting. And so I added that they have to be posted to the front and rear windows of the courthouse for continuous 24 hours prior to the commission meeting, which complies with SDCL 1-25-1.1. And some other little thing I changed, I don't recall.
Looks like from last year, maybe just the only one townships are organized now, so that would change from last year anyways. Which is correct again, but we act as their board.
And that. Yeah, well, whatever two things, that was almost a month ago, I think, that Doug asked me to proofread that, and like I said, the one I did change was posting of the minutes, and the other, I honestly don't remember. It was some small thing that I requested change, but it's on all of your copies, whatever that's the updated.
This is what we're looking at, has the corrections all in it.
Yep, yes.
Okay.
I would move that we pass resolution.
There's a determination on there that, annual fee for aerial applicators, $50, $75, and $100. We're at $100 now, aren't we?
50.
We're at 50 now?
Yeah.
Anybody see a need or desire to raise that?
Or do we have two of them?
Yeah, I think there was 2 last year. There used to be more.
Not like it's gonna make a whole lot of difference. Whether it be 50 or 100.
No.
We'll leave it at 50?
Yeah, I don't know, I guess.
Or somebody want to make a motion where we want it to be?
When do we send something to, or they just send it in?
They send it in normally. I think they keep track at their end and then they just send what they paid last year.
Do you have any administrative stuff you deal with when you do them, to speak of?
No, not really, not more, any more than anything else.
I'd say we just
I'd
leave
say
it the
leave
same.
it.
Check
Is
the
that a
$50.
motion?
He or somebody had a motion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you have to do a motion within the resolution, but you can just, because it's a checkbox, so it's one of 3 options.
I think we'll leave it at 50.
Leave it at 50? Is that a motion?
Yep.
Second to that motion?
Second.
A motion by Greg, second by Dan, for $50. Any other concerns with the wording of that resolution? Okay, being with the resolution, we will take a roll call vote.
It
Greg?
hasn't been seconded, has it?
Oh,
Dan Jensen.
Okay.
Well, the original resolution?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Second.
Who was first?
I had Jim Jones wrote down.
Jim Jones. With a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Dan? Lou?
Aye.
Aye.
Jim? And my vote is aye.
The next item I have for you is the temporary spending directive, and this basically just spells out what we talked about in the last meeting as far as holding off on discretionary spending, or if you have something come up, just come back and visit with your board about it. So if you want to take a second, look that over, make sure that it meets your needs. So while you're looking at that, I'll just tell you that the cash fund balance for the general fund is over $1 million presently. We need a 1.4 to do the budget supplement, so we're still not quite out of the woods yet. So I'm hoping that we can make that budget supplement before I formally close the books on 23.
Does that land purchase make any difference?
Not really.
Okay.
So
When do you typically get the closure done?
late January.
Late January. Yeah.
But yeah, so the other things are linked in here, so you can look at the expenditure report, revenue report. You're not gonna see any significant changes from the last meeting we had. I did decide to print you a balance sheet and hand it out to you, so that you can take those and just look at them. It kind of gives you a glimpse of the 2 budgets and where they stand as far as assets, liabilities. But otherwise, it's encouraging. The biggest change was that Sylvia Chapman, who came on behalf of legislative audit, she successfully helped me transfer those ARPA monies into the general fund. So even though we had spent them on the books, it still looked like it was still sitting in its own fund. And the reason that happened was that 2022 did not close out completely last year. When I run it through the series of different steps in the program, it did not actually move those funds. So she found that pretty quickly, which was very helpful. So it's looking good, looking better, but still not as good as it could or should be.
I don't have the, our 24 budget to look at, but from my memory what we needed to apply for cash to make the general fund balance is about what we have in there today.
Right.
However, what we needed to put into the road and bridge fund to balance, we're nowhere near that number.
Right.
We're at 600,000.
And the checks came for the road graders, so that cash balance, you see there reflects that. So
This does reflect that.
Yep, so at some point, you have to make a decision if you want to pay towards that bank note sooner or later. My recommendation today is to wait all the
Later, sounds good.
Later, so.
I'll wait, because I mean, to give if anybody else has looked at it or not, but it sets at 600,000 today, and our cash applied for the road and bridge that we needed was close to like 1.2 million. So we're a good $500,000, if not more, short to balance that budget for this coming year,
fund that budget.
to fund that budget. Yes.
So, as far as the temporary spending directive, is there anything you want changed?
Seemed realistic.
And I purposely called it a temporary one, so that it didn't become a hard and fast policy, that it can be adjusted however you see fit as time goes forward.
Does that need a motion to approve it or just?
Yeah, I think just for the sake of formality, it'd probably be best to have a formal vote on it.
Can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
What's the $200,000 reserve for the elevator?
That is the fund that was used. And if you recall, because we used the ARPA funds for revenue replacement, then I didn't take that out of that reserve yet, but it will be sliding up. Well, wait a minute, it'll be sliding from there up here.
Okay.
Once we get past all of that.
We still have, did we make a final payment
No.
on that yet? They still have some tweaking to do, I think, didn't they?
Move to approve the policy
Second.
spending directive.
Motion from Dan, a second from Jim Jones. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, so if I'm reading the agenda right, we're at the surplus property, the opening of the sealed bids. There was one envelope received for each of the two items. So the North Highway Shop has an envelope and the Trailblazer has an envelope. I'd like to read those aloud. Mr. Chairman, I'll record them in the notes.
Bid for the 2008 Trailblazer. Feel like John Carson.
Can we pass it around or we read it?
Just one person look at it. We've got one bid, $750. We have to name the bidder.
Yes.
Steve Ames, got his phone number, 2008 Trailblazer, it says on the bottom. And that is.
That's over what we
Salvage
said.
value or whatever.
So if you're willing to accept that bid, I would recommend that you make a motion to that effect and grant me authority to execute the title and other documents to make the sales final
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to accept the bid of $750. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bid for the North Highway shop.
Didn't waste anything on paper, right?
Okay, the bid is $11,000 on the North Highway shop up there on 26. Bidder Sean Ford, got his phone number on here.
That's to move, right?
Pardon?
No,
Move?
No,
To Stay there.
it's land that it was
That's the
assessed or appraised at.
Right, and it's appraised for 25, whatever, and I believe that the legal states that you have to at least bid that dollar amount to even be considered.
Right.
To accept the bid.
So it was,
That bid is too low.
right, and the bidder contacted me afterwards and told me that he recognized that after he read the legal, so. I would recommend that you
So we
make a
have
motion to deny the
So moved.
bids.
Second.
a motion by Jim Jones and a second by Dan Palmer to deny Sean Ford's $11,000 bid because it does not meet our minimum. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries to reject the bid on the North Highway shop.
Then I would ask that you ask the appraisers to reappraise the property.
Need a motion for that or just,
I think it can just be, you guys aren't gonna contest it, are you? Doing it again,
No, but I'm gonna give you the same,
same exact number? Okay, she's gonna give you the same exact number.
Well, we're gonna
I'm gonna
set,
give you the same number.
your,
we'll set on that, so.
What was the number?
26.
11,000, I thought it was.
Same thing.
$25,813, I think.
Is that like a quarter of an acre?
It's 0.41 acre.
It's more than a quarter.
so do we have to address re-advertising for bids then?
If we want to do it. I suppose.
We need a motion to advertise for bids.
Is there any reason to think that we're gonna get any other bids if we re-advertise? If we re-advertise, pay to re-advertise and don't get any action, we just throw the money down the toilet.
Sure. We went through that with the properties in Balin.
What is our county policy about meeting that minimum bid? I mean, if we end up having to retain it,
That's a state statutory requirement, isn't it?
Right,
That's
we
not
set that
county.
as the minimum
Whatever it's
in
approved.
the ad.
so if we don't meet a minimum bid, we keep the property in.
Talk about it later.
Do we want to re-advertise again now or should we address it later? What's the board
Well, we
feel?
can maintain the advertisement without publication. Once we advertise it, that it will remain available until sold.
How would we make that publicly known?
We would put a publication in the paper and just say that it's available for sale and you would set a price on it.
We couldn't just have that as a paragraph in our minutes and on that paper and
I'll
ad.
find out,
Okay.
because we do our resolutions within the minutes. I'll find out.
Okay.
All right. So going back to the supplement, I contacted Rob Fortin, who's the Director of Local Government Assistance. And his quote is there, which is correct. You have to do a supplement to cover that overage in that line. So I'm hoping that by the 15th or so of this month, I'll be able to make at least a partial supplement, if not a whole one, but I will converse with the chairman before that takes place. The next item is that we're going to again do the second annual township workshop on the 26th of January. And you're all invited, and I put a notice in the paper of that, and I included that if enough of you attended as quorum, that it would be an official meeting. So,
Would it be in the assembly room or where?
courtroom.
Oh, courtroom.
So that way you don't have to worry about if two others are there and you wanna come listen in, and we can still do it as a meeting.
Will there be any other notifications other than the ad in the paper?
It's on Facebook now, and then Jamie made a graphic for us to put out there as well.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we're hopeful that'll be well attended. And then you can see the list of attendees that we have right now. The South Dakota Association of Towns and Townships might ask their bonding agent that they work with to come also and visit with the townships about doing their insurance and their bonds. And that takes us to Nicole. Yep,
All right.
got them butterflies in order?
Yeah,
Okay, while she's on her phone, I'm gonna tell you what these are. These are from Aflac. These are your enrollment forms. Sean wanted to be here, but he wasn't able to because of another commitment. So his instruction to me is to have you look at it because you are eligible participants in this. So if on the right-hand side you have nothing, that means you are participating in nothing. If you have something that you're interested in, his business card was also provided to you. So you can contact him, work that out. So if you choose to leave it as nothing, this also serves as a waiver. If you look in the lower left-hand section, it says waiver of participation. If not applying, sign here. Check one of the two boxes, scribble your signature, and I will keep it in safekeeping until he returns. Any questions on that?
Is there a list of the charges for each of these?
He has that.
You don't have it in the office?
I could only tell you, I can tell you what appears on here and that other one.
So this one, competing dental plan, competing vision plan.
Yes, so
No,
14.
This has additional
and they're all the
payments.
same.
Okay, for those.
They all look the same.
Mhm. 3 with a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, sign it, yeah.
Oh, I didn't sign mine.
I can't, would you want me to?
If you would. Thank you.
What you're gonna have is this one. Slide that
So this is a bit of work in progress.
First.
Ready to deal with me? I'm open to suggestions. Any input would be appreciated. I am still looking for some data. I want to pull together a slide for how much we bid, or how much we budgeted for last year for the road and bridge, how much we're estimating it's gonna take to support the road and bridge to do a quality job. And then how much, I guess, we've transferred over from the general fund, how much we actually spent. In the last couple of years at least. I know it's not so easy once we start getting too far in the past because we can't differentiate what the transfers into the road and bridge are, whether they're grant money, something was sold, we don't have an itemized way to look at that for some reason. So if grant money was sent into the general fund and then the general fund transferred it into the road and bridge, we wouldn't know to differentiate what was from the road and bridge, what was from the grant. Kind of makes it a little more complicated when you get too far in the history.
Because everything moves through our general fund,
Yep.
they're in and out transfers, and sometimes there's not clarity. If a grant comes in from the highway department, goes into the general fund, goes back out of the general fund, is it actual tax revenue that gets transferred out? Is it a grant that got moved through the general
Right.
fund? So some of that is
So I
We
wasn't
might
able
probably
to.
need some track there or some.
Some of it we can deposit directly into road and bridge. It's not very often that you see one go to general first.
Okay, so I need to be in touch with the gentleman from Ultra on that, and I'll see if he can help me out.
You just gotta turn the screen.
Oh, I guess you guys get a little version, small screen version,
Get your binoculars out.
something not quite plugged in, right?
I don't know. It was on earlier and now it's not.
I was gonna say.
So. What's his name? Murphy?
Yeah, not wrong. We need a cordless mouse. That's okay. All right, so can you guys see that at all? Do we move
I
this?
can move that.
If that helps anything. So this is where we are at this point. As you can see, we are the Hand County Highway Department. We are the part of the local government and are responsible to maintain 230 miles of paved county roads, 185 miles of county gravel roads, 107 bridges qualify for large structures, which means they're over 20 foot down the center line of the road. We have over 200 smaller bridges, metal culverts, box culverts. You guys know all the little things that hide under there. There's more than that. We just haven't counted those. We have 13 full-time employees, which includes 3 administrative personnel. And Jeff probably is more of on-hands than administrative. Well, he's on-hand as well as administrative. We perform maintenance, snow removal, and function as project coordinator on gravel, bridge, and right-of-way projects, as well as the other necessary jobs and activities. We are subject to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And that, of course, is mostly for the snow removal, and our emergencies. This is a summary of what we do, which you guys have a pretty good idea of. So speaking to Greg Vavra at LCAP, he also has put on a presentation of what road and bridge departments across South Dakota are facing. These are some challenges that it's not just us, it's everybody. Funding shortfalls, of course, inflation lately. I mean, they give us a percentage of like 8% inflation, but of course, we all see it's often more than that. Employee retention and the ability to hire, employees get paid better in the private sector, and it's hard to get qualified individuals to come in for what we offer sometimes. We do have good benefits, we do have that, but for some reason, large projects are becoming unaffordable, which I will show you why later. Loading and speed on the roadways exceed the safety and design of many of the current roads. Wind, dairy, feeding operations, and large commercial access. A lot of those, like the hog refinery we have down south, the hog confinement, the wind farms, we've seen what that does to our roads on regular hauling of items. Deferred maintenance, and this is a number that Greg Vavra threw out there, is said for everything that we pass on maintaining today, it'll cost us $6 later as far as road maintenance goes. So if we say, oh, we're just gonna put that project off for a year, well, then next year it gets a little worse and a little worse, and it multiplies the expense. We are dipping into reserves in the general fund to continue to be able to function. So this is the cost for some of 2023's projects. What Jeff has come up to with, our computer system and all the stuff that Chris keeps track of in the office. The chip sealing's at $18,000 a mile. level course patching is at 15,000 a mile. And that's level course patching. How would you describe that, Jeff?
It's just an overlay, it's very thin. It's
A thin
what we've
overlay.
been doing most of the summer, so it's fairly inexpensive, but it works pretty well.
So, yeah, that 3/4 of a mile into St. Lawrence was $6,550. I don't know, you guys can see the numbers and read them for yourself.
Do we feel like those numbers are materials and labor, everything involved?
It is.
Involved?
Yeah, it's everything involved. 2023 snow removal was at $383,000. So that was a nice boom coming into the year. It wasn't exactly planned for.
That was just after the first of the year.
That was after the first of the year, that doesn't include December. Gravel project expenses. Gravel has gone quite pricey lately. The gravel that we have crushed in the county pit, we figure is about $5 a ton. And we can't use that on everything. Sometimes we need a little more specified of a gradation or a different type of gravel, but the local pits that we go to are between $850 and $1050 a ton, depending on who we're dealing with. And it takes 1,500 tons to gravel a mile for a 3-inch lift of gravel. I don't know if you call it a lift. Call it a lift. But anyway, I kind of threw together some numbers. So that's, if we're going to the 1050 gravel, that's $15,750. For the 850 gravel, that's $12,750. And for our cost, it's $7,500 for our pit. But that's just the gravel. And a good example of actual cost is 355th Avenue that goes by Howard's. We just put 3-inch lift of gravel on that, 6 miles of road. And as you'll see, that labor was $19,141. Equipment and fuel was $40,268. Gravel was $29,440. So that total 6 miles was $88,850, which is steep. Let's see. So I know you guys know, but in 1995, the state enacted a program, which sometimes is referred to as Governor Janko's Property Tax Reduction Program. The program reduced property taxes on certain classifications and limited how property tax revenue may be increased from one year to the next. The Department of Revenue monitors each taxing district to ensure that the tax district complies with the property tax limitations established under SDCL Chapter 10-13. And over the last 28 years, the property tax reduction program has been tweaked, but the primary requirements are still intact. Pursuant to SDCL 10-13-35, property taxes for each taxing district are limited to the property tax dollars received in the previous year, plus the annual increase provided by the index factor and growth factor. So the index factor is the rate of inflation for 3%, whichever is less. So we are limited below that. Now, to look at inflation. And this is a national average that's been gathered from the Consumer Price Index. And we have gone over 3% 8 times since 1995, equaling a total of 9.9% inflation that we haven't figured out. That's national. South Dakota's average inflation, and these numbers just came out. But this year we're at 8.5% inflation. But that's gone over 3 times since 2010. We don't have any data before that. The person I talked to at the Department of Revenue could not find that information for me. I don't know.
So South Dakota's average inflation was 8.5 and our CPI was 3.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's going into effect this year, is we're gonna be getting a 3% increase, but inflation went up 5.5% or 8.5%. Which when you look at the numbers that I have for equipment expenses and gravel and oil, you'll be interested. Because royalty costs, 2012, they were 75 cents. And in 2022, they're $1.32. So that's an increase of 76%. Crushing costs, 2012, $2.84, and in 2022, they're $4.32. So that's an increase of 52%. Hauling, 58% increase, and the laydown of gravel is 39% increase. And then that chloride treatment that St. Lawrence wanted so badly that's gone up 55% since 2012. So that's $1.12 a square yard now. It was 72 cents.
$1.12 a square yard.
It was, yeah, $1.12 a square yard. So then when you look at asphalt, let's see. These are Greg Bava's numbers. I don't know. I know we use the MC3000. Knowing would be like to.
We use some, as much as I'd like to, because it's gotten so expensive.
Yeah, it's just, it's $919 a ton. Now, it was $531 10 years ago. Class 1 asphalt was $50 a ton, it's now $79.50 a ton. And hot mix, which we don't work with hot mix anymore because of the pricing of everything, we've gone with the pug mill to do cold mix. But that's an 87% increase. Equipment costs, I mean, we've seen this in vehicles. 2012, a truck chassis was $81,700. In 2022, it's $152,900. It's 87% increase. Of course, motor graders, wheel loaders. I could probably continue down the list, but anyway, now this is data from our own computer system. This is what we pulled out of our reports. And I went every 5 years, which I don't know. Back in 2005, a 18-inch, 20-foot culvert was $141. In 2015, it was $276.69, and in 2022, it's $368.75. So it's just, and cold mix prices, I don't know, I need to, but looking up inflation calculator, they said everything that was $1 in 2000 is $2.01 today. It's kind of the $2.01 on the dollar. Let's see here. So at the beginning of the property tax reduction program, some taxing districts, including us, were caught with their levies down. The property tax revenue for each taxing district was limited based on its property tax revenue for the previous year. So that was before the implementation of the program. And it didn't matter whether the property tax revenue was lower or higher than the taxing districts around you, or the average. Prior to the program being enacted, several taxing districts had been encouraged to expend their reserves in part due to the recent constitutional amendments and property tax revenue and levies. Initiatives concerning property taxation, Some taxing districts had lowered the property tax revenue and levies in anticipation of expending such reserves. And I don't know necessarily where we were at that point.
In 96.
I was in high school in 96. So I'm not sure where Hand County was at that point. But when the program was enacted, the law locked these taxing districts at the current property tax revenue payable. So we got locked in there, and lucky for us, we have been at the lowest in the state ever since. And if you look at the recap, the county's tax rates, which are listed on the South Dakota Department of Revenue website and the Property Tax Transparency Portal, I was so kind to refer to me to. You'll see that because we're locked in by the Property Tax Reduction Act, Hannah County has the lowest tax levy in the state, and we have since then. So you can look at the counties that are compared by population, and we're at 1.506, and Hanson is similar, but they're at 2.679 for the tax rate. Bennett's at 7.64, Stanley's at 2.762, and Jackson's at 3.021. And the counties that are comparable by size, Spink is at 1.673, Stanley's at 2.762, Todd's at 3.535, and Millette is at 3.393. So that naturally puts us at a disadvantage with the funding situation.
You have a list of the other lowest ones? Like as far as actual rate, not comparable by population or size, just
the actual.
actual tax rate?
I honestly. Do we have notes? You guys don't have any. May I use your pencil?
Sure.
Okay. I will put that on there. I know I can get it.
I believe there's a PDF on the portal, that transparency page, and it shows every county,
It's
shows our levies and all of that.
pretty good to look at. It's
I think I've
good
seen it as well.
information.
I believe we're still last, but
Yeah, we're still at. I just looked at it today. But, so the Road and Bridge Fund does annually receive usually over half of the county's financing, or funding. We did enact the wheel tax, but that is only specifically able to be applied to the bridges. And that was so that we would require for the big grant that has given us $900,000 in grant monies to put towards the road or the bridges that we have in the program for the future repair coming up in the next few years. We also were able to qualify to get 2 bridges that would be 100% funded. So whatever we raise from that wheel tax will help cover our 80-20 cut on those other big grants. I have looked at grants and government funding. I have called around and talked to individuals who would know things about where to go to find funding. The only grant that's consistently given that I've found is the U.S. Surface Transportation System grant. We get that every year. We can usually anticipate an increase of the CPI thereabouts. It depends on how many people are in the program, how they divvy it out, how much funding they get from the government. The other grants I've looked at, there's no guarantee. A lot of them have requirements that we don't need to apply for. Like I said, they were beautification, impoverished areas who have a lot more traffic than we do, to implement roundabouts or that sort of thing. And I can't find anything that's really at this time suitable for our situation. FEMA will come in times of emergencies, and they only show up for disasters. It is hard to get them to improve anything. They will come in, they will replace what you had happen, and they consider it mitigation or improvement of something. So we have a bridge up north that was not in great shape when it started before this ice incident that we had. We are in negotiations with them right now, trying to figure out how much we can get. They wanna give us like $13,000, and it's gonna cost us $180,000 to repair this bridge, replace this bridge. So, and it's, if we're gonna repair it, we might as well replace it. It's one of those things. But they're only gonna give us that small chunk of money, which, I mean, it makes a dent, I guess, but the bulk of the additional funding that we do receive comes from the general fund, as you guys know. Ham County taxes were paid in 2022, and we received $10,279,275,189. And this is a pie chart that shows how those taxes were allotted within the county. So you'll see the school received like 63% of those taxes, followed by the county and the city received $481,000. Let's see.
By that pie chart, we receive less than 25% of the tax revenue.
24.16 or something, yeah. So all those taxes that aren't paid in, we don't get a huge chunk. It's decent, but of that, this is how it is spent for the county. And this is 2022 expenses for the county. As you can see, the road and bridge is the biggest chunk of that funding. With all the expenses, we have the most employees. And as you will see, the cost of everything is just astronomical. But, so to save money, we try to save money. Jeff is known for being very frugal amongst the people that he's had to. We purchased a pug mill so we can make our own cold mix instead of having to purchase it from an out-of-town seller. And that saves us quite a bit. We do the majority of our own repairs. The guys in the shop do try to repair our equipment, change our oil. The equipment that we purchase is used. We don't ever buy anything new, and we do maintenance. We get the best gravel prices possible locally and haul it ourselves. We try to save on trucking. When we joined in with Spink County, because they're close, and we could, project I think was closer to their pit too. And we try to keep overtime to a minimum, just pretty strict on the overtime policy. We run groomers instead of blades. It costs half and extends the blade's life. And we try to fabricate our own equipment when at all possible. We fabricated a $3,000 blade, which would have cost us $25,000 if we would have gone to a dealer. So we do our best to try not and waste money. And this is how the Road and Bridge Department spent our portion of the 2022 budget. The wheel tax designated items were all for bridges. The Surface Transportation Fund expenses were kept separate and itemized proportionately between gravel and road oil. And professional services down here at $380,000, it looks high. But we actually had a crusher come in and they crushed our concrete and our gravel because they were available. And sometimes when they're available, you just gotta have them in when you can. So, of course, employees are a good chunk of that, as most companies are. But a lot of that is diesel, road oil, sand and gravel expenses, over half of it. when the road and bridge department can't get proper funding, we need to look at what we have to cut to stay in the budget. And, if we have to maintain the roads less, it's, deferring the maintenance costs and then in the future, we can anticipate the potholes will get worse. It will damage the under the surface of the road, the base of the road, worse. But, then it'll take having to dig that out and completely replace it at some point. The wear and tear on vehicles and equipment from degradation of the roads is not helpful for anyone. I don't know, but if there are less used roads, we may have to let them go to minimum maintenance. And if we can't afford to do the projects that we need to do, we're gonna lose jobs. We're gonna lose employees. Because if we're not doing as much, we won't be able to employ as many people. So this variety of factors has come together to make it hard to allocate funds needed for the expenses incurred for the maintenance of the roads. And we're locked in at the lowest tax rate in the state and facing really high inflation. So each year, the Road and Bridge Department is drawing more and more funds from the general fund because of that inflation. And the general fund, as in 2023, it wasn't able to support that. We're gonna be digging into our reserves. The funds that we should be using for other departments, like updating computer systems, replacing boilers, fixing elevators, the library, is being pulled into the highway department. And that's not really fair to them. And no one likes good road, or no one likes taxes, but everyone likes good roads. So the estimates for this year's maintenance costs are adding up to the point that we aren't gonna be able to support that without some supplementation of the budget. We still have to take care of the courthouse, we still have to take care of the other departments. So either we're gonna have to decrease the care of the roads or implement specific taxes for the road and bridge department. In South Dakota Codified Law 1213, the Board of County Commissioners are allowed to levy an annual tax to help with the road and bridge expenses. Because of the tax freeze, we cannot increase the general fund. This seems to be the only avenue we have to be able to continue to keep the roads maintained. Which, I don't know that I need to read all that. Just let everybody read it for themselves. But according to that law, we are limited to 90 cents per $1,000 of taxable valuation. So that'll be added on to the tax levy that we already have in progress.
Nicole,
Yeah.
will you read us that chart if you got it?
Do you want-
What a dime does, what 20 cents per thousand, what 30 cents per, up to 90 cents per thousand?
Okay,
How
so
much are we
that
at?
is coming.
Okay.
Let's see here. Yeah. So, well, these are other counties that are implementing road and bridge levies. We talked about that yesterday. So as you can see, Rural, Butte, Clark, Day, Dewey, Douglas, Falk, Grant, Hanson, Lincoln, Marshall, Meade, and Union have already implemented this tax to help support the road and bridge in their counties. I do want to come up with a number, like I said, I want to come up with a page that shows what our expenses have been the last couple of years and how much we're gonna need, what Jeff's budget looks like for this next year. So we can see how much we're gonna need to come up with to make everything float.
What would be your best guess?
I personally am thinking around the $800,000-900,000 mark
On an annual basis?
on an annual basis. Yeah, I mean, we've been digging ourselves a hole for years, haven't we?
If we did it, for instance, the maximum 90 cents, how much revenue does that
So,
provide?
that's 1,500,000 is where the 90 cents is.
Why was one county that you just had up there at 1.02 or something like that? It was well over 90.
Yeah, it was.
Hold on. Okay, so,
At the bottom of the left-hand side, Douglas.
if you look, let's see back here. Gotta get used to using this. If you look back here, if a county is worth $1 billion or less, they can exceed they can have a $1 levy. So if their county is worth $1 billion or less than $1 billion.
And we're way over that.
So, well, if we are worth $1 billion but less than $2 billion, which is where we're sitting, right?
Yep.
We cannot exceed 90 cents.
Okay.
So anyone who is less than $1 billion can levy $1. And that is why they are higher than that.
It'd be interesting to know, even with a levy, where we would sit with all the other counties as far as tax.
Tax wise. I tell you what, there is that chart that Jamie was
Right.
referring to. And we will send you guys a link, I'll email you guys a link. It's a lot of data.
It's a ton of data. It's lots of educational tools that you can use to talk to constituents about how the tax process works, honestly.
It has every county, it has what their tax levy is, it has the value of their ag land, their owner occupied land, what are all the other lands? The business properties,
Commercial,
utilities, yeah, commercial. So it is a good reference point, and you can look and you can see who has a road and bridge tax and how much they bring in with it. And it is, when you look at it, it's kind of staggering how we make it. You kind of go,
Are we like one of the only counties that don't have a road and bridge?
no, well,
Or is that one of the only
these are
counties
the only counties in South Dakota that are
Right.
using it.
that are using it?
There are counties that have snow levies, they tax for snow removal. There are a lot of different
Right.
varieties of taxes that other counties
Well, if you're doing
have.
the snow removal, it's basically the same thing.
Except you can't use it in summertime.
But this would free, if a guy went to a road and bridge, he can use it on roads and bridges.
Right, yep, this
And
is
everything that it encompasses.
entails.
Okay.
So yeah, it's basically put into the road and bridge fund, and it is ours to use as we need.
So if we set 50-cent levy, how does that work from year to year? Does that change, or we set it and it's where it's at?
So that levy, good question. That levy will go up with the CPI every year, just as the other tax does. It did state in the law that is a thing. Any adjustments of taxation? I know it's in here. I read it.
But once you get to 90 though, the 90 is a hard limit?
Nope.
Oh.
It'll go up with the CPI every year.
But if you set it at 50,
You're only get the CPI.
yeah, then you're only gonna get CPI at 50 mils, right?
Uh,
Can't you change it the next year to
If
60?
we set it at 50,
Can't you change it the next year to 60?
we can probably propose to change it.
You can
And
change it annually, can't you?
Yeah.
I think we can adjust it up to 90 cents at any point.
That's my understanding. I'd have to read it again, to know for sure.
Right,
But this is, like, some of them other ones, you gotta set it high, because you can only go,
you can only,
you can levy different up to 90. You could say, oh, this year all we need is 40,
right.
that's all we need, but then the year after you need 60.
With you,
The tax fact of,
for the road and bridge levy, it's that one that they publish on the DOR.
I do. I think I scanned it. No, shoot, that's not the one I scanned in. I've got it in my big paper file here. But that's,
Nicole and I were discussing a couple days ago, I was in the office at the highway department, discussing how just plowing snow, there's a big expense to plowing snow off the roads. We can seldom ever plow snow off gravel road without taking some gravel with it. So now you've got the expense of plowing snow, you've got gravel to replace. That snow almost always ends up sitting in road ditches and softening the road bed and pounding out places in the roads. The cost of bad winters is way more than just plowing roads. I mean, there's a lot of costs that continue to accumulate.
okay, so this is the laws. Once passed without authority, continue, but any further action of the board. Taxes generated can be increased annually by the index and growth factor.
Which would be the CPI.
Yeah,
So what you're saying
cannot
is,
exceed the limitations.
so
Of course.
if I'm reading this right, and I might not be, we could levy 90 cents, but we wouldn't necessarily have to every year do the 90 cents. It would leave us the ability to go up to 90 cents. If we only needed, if we levied the 90 cents and everything we look at, because if you're only gonna do this, you're only gonna get to do this once, basically.
Can't you do it annually?
It is not annual.
It's gotta be done annually.
But if you put it at the 90 cents, the top, doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna levy that much.
No.
It gives them anything between 0 and 90 you could levy. If only you need 30 this year and the next year. But after that, you need to go up. You would have the room to go up without having it referred to a vote every time.
Actually, it's done by resolution each year. Resolutions can be referred to.
Oh, they can. So by saying that, not really.
I don't think there's a huge advantage to having.
A high one versus.
Right.
Okay.
Is there an automatic CPI applied to whatever your mill levy is to the?
Well, there are some things we.
You have
like
to
that
ask
you wanted to do.
Just take
And
advantage.
you wanted to be able to work in between the two numbers.
Gotcha.
But this is not necessarily set up that way.
Not one of those apparently. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, we don't wanna be greedy. We don't wanna just take it because we can. We wanna be reasonable, but,
But we also gotta realize,
You
we're
guys
at,
see the
our
finance.
levy we're at right now is the lowest in the state.
state, yeah.
So we're paying the lowest taxes to begin with.
And once you see that chart, you'll see like, there's people that are levying for courthouse and other building repairs, for 4-H grounds. And they're taking advantage of all these other levies, okay, so that they don't opt out in general. This is helping to supplant those needs.
Do we know what's driving the inflation of these commodity costs within the construction aspects of county government?
Most of it comes back to steel and oil, because those who control the price of oil, and those who control the price of steel control almost every other subsidiary part of that.
And why gravel and that's went up, land prices went up, some people that were having gravel in their land decided, hey, land's worth more, gravel's worth more.
But if the taxing entities have their hands tied and can't just willy-nilly raise taxes to meet the inflated costs year after year after year, then you would think that the classic definition of inflation, which is too much money chasing too few goods and services, would not apply. You would think that would not apply because we can't pay more. So why is the price going up? Where are they going to get the money? And it's not just us, it's all these taxing entities. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't compute to me. And you had 8.25% as the CPI for 23. Isn't that actually for 22?
Well, no, it's 23. I adjusted it. It's for 23. The national average, what the gal at Department of Revenue sent me is that.
Well, it says that on the graphic there, but I don't think that's right. I think it's for 22. It was
Well,
changed
The
considerably. in
national
23.
average was, what I noticed between the national average and the South Dakota average is we are a year behind, which is really
Okay, then it makes sense.
not much of a surprise.
But it really is irrelevant anyway, because we're not talking about CPI, we're talking about CPI as it pertains to the kinds of costs you have in the highway department, not the cost of living.
And that is where we're looking at 50% inflation in
Right.
10 years.
Yeah, what she found out is that, like in Bureau of Finance, Department of Revenue, they don't calculate a levy or a CPI above 3%, because that's the cap.
Yeah.
Right,
So if they actually released or published the result of theirs, it would be higher, but they just choose to, when they hit 3, they just stop.
they do. That's
So
what
we-
she told me.
We don't
So it's
even
just
have-
unrealistic.
Yeah, we
in the
don't
first
even have
place.
a genuine picture of what South Dakota CPI is.
Since 95, no. I mean, she did give us, let's see. This is what she gave me. This is the actual average. But only since 2010, apparently above 3%, like before this, they just didn't keep track of it.
Okay, where it says at the bottom right-hand side of the screen,
Yep,
23, it says 8.5%.
yeah.
You're saying that is a year behind.
Well,
It's
that's
gotta be.
just how South Dakota usually, it's the trickle down to the
Okay,
small towns.
That's actually the cost of living increase, CPI from 22.
That is what they declared this year. They just probably sent that information to Doug. So it's going into effect.
As soon as they get the letter.
Yeah, as soon as he gets the letter, they're gonna say this is what it was in 2023. Which I guess if you look at goods and services, you believe it,
Oh, yeah.
but it's just interesting because,
So what we're proposing, what I'm proposing, I guess, is that we would have Nicole do this presentation at the Farm and Home Show. And we've just got to be open and honest with people that cash flow isn't working. And we can't, I'm not saying we can't continue to fund the highway department out of the general fund. But every time we do that, we're ignoring stuff that we discuss here at the courthouse all the time. Boilers, we just capped off another radiator the other day that has failed, and we'll address that when we get to that. But
and if it wasn't for COVID money, we wouldn't have a new elevator.
yeah, they're just, we can't ignore it. Nobody likes new taxes. Well, we don't like new taxes. None of us sitting at this table like new taxes. But the fact of it is, those of us sitting at this table are responsible for paying the bills and balancing a budget. And when the cash flow isn't working anymore, how else do you address it? We don't have magic money comes from nowhere. It's the people's government and unfortunately they end up paying for it, but.
Well, in Ham County, we have a lot of paved roads. And Jeff said that that's actually even better than gravel. Says it's about the same price. But,
There's some variables in that, but, we talked about this when we bought the Pug Mill, that, you want to put more gravel roads out there, you're gonna be hauling gravel forever. You beat that oil road up and do it right, pave it, you'll never haul gravel out again.
so going back to gravel really isn't a feasible option or a helpful
It
option.
really isn't. I mean, it's not gonna save you anything. It could actually end up costing you something, because when you get more gravel roads, pretty soon your gravel supply gets short, and your 25-mile long haul is gonna turn into 50 or more. And that's where your cost is. You're really not gonna
It'd be
save
interesting.
by tearing up oil roads.
It'd be interesting on here, if this is gonna be the presentation because it showed what you do the roads for, but it'd be interesting to have on here a slide, like if you hired here on asphalt to come and pave a mile,
I think
outline a mile of road, what that costs, and it's gonna be dramatically more than what you're doing it for sure.
Window,
I'll probably might be out more than double, I would bet, but
Didn't we figure that out here like a couple years ago that we're about 40 cents on the dollar of what it costs to hire
Yes.
a contractor to do it too. The highway department operates at about 40 cents on the dollar of what the state says it should cost. That bug bill is about 40 cents on the dollar of what hiring a contractor to do it. So we're not throwing money away. I don't feel our highway department is throwing money away, but this lowest tax levy in the state that we're stuck with isn't working for us either.
I think we have one other potential liability out there that is very much connected to the highway department. We're not blaming you for this at all, it's your fault. But it's well known in the legal profession, it is anyway, and I'm sure in your profession, Jeff, that all of our county roads, whether they're gravel or they're pavement, all of them were designed with sight lines in mind and sloping in mind for safe travel at 45 miles an hour. We've got them all marked at 55, and we are open to being sued if somebody gets killed. We're telling the public it's safe to drive on our roads at 55, and it is not.
State law says for townships, I'm talking for our township. State law says that if your township roads aren't signed, they're assumed to be 55 miles an hour. Our township passed the resolution and we signed our roads at 45. I said, there's too much liability on those township roads at 55 miles an hour. It costs us $300 and some for the signs, costs us nothing to pass the resolution. And I think it
Could see
reduces
penalties and lawsuits.
I think it reduces our liability considerably to have our township speed limit at 45, but. Anyway,
Even at 45, you're asserting to the public, if you're inviting the public to drive upon your roads, you're telling the public, you're assuring the public, it's safe to drive on our road at 45.
Yeah.
And if it's poorly maintained, it isn't.
Yeah, you're right, there could be hazards at 45.
Well, and
So is the board, do we have a consensus of the board that this would be, we're proposing doing this at 10:30 Saturday morning in the theater. It's not set in stone yet, but is it the board's consensus that we should do a public presentation? Or at some point, we're gonna have to end up getting revenue from somewhere. Yeah, I mean, we can't continue to pay the bills if we either collect revenue and try to maintain status quo, which I don't think is overly expensive as far as the highway department goes, or we are gonna have to say, well, we'd like to gravel those roads, but we can't, or we'd like to fix those potholes in the oil, but we can't, and I don't think that's acceptable looking to the future either, but.
Well, I don't think anybody in Han County would argue with anybody's assertion that our Han County Highway Department is the most efficient and effective in the state of South Dakota. I don't know how you could do more with less than they get.
And we've got until July 15th to set this, well, we've got till July anyway to set this levy. So it's not like we're making a determination. I think it's just good,
Information.
information for the public to know where we're at and why we're there.
Right.
Our money doesn't grow on trees like anyone else's. It's unfortunate. Nobody likes a tax increase, like I said. I don't like a tax increase, but before sitting on this commission, I would have been one of the ones that, I'll just be blunt with you, what are you bastards thinking about? You know, what do you need more tax money for? Well, I would invite anybody to come and help us do budget, because like I said, the numbers have to balance. We don't have, room for error, I guess I would say.
So that slide that you had on what each level would produce for revenue,
yeah,
because it says in here that there's still 25% of it is to be paid to the municipalities.
does it? Good to know.
10, 12, 14.
14. Matching aid levy, 25% of the money raised by the levy shall be paid by the county treasurer to the treasurer of said municipality. Well, So I guess that's a little less for the county, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's truly the case, then I don't know if you've talked to anybody, any of the municipalities to see if they're having issues as well.
That's a good question. Well, and honestly, it'd probably be good for me to put this in there and run through it that way too.
Right.
And then people can read it for themselves. Like I said, I want to do an informational handout. I want to do something with, that was one of the main ones I was thinking we need to hand out.
That
And
really looks professionally done. That's fantastic.
thank you,
I-
Jim.
I did have someone ask me, so if you're gonna tax enough to cover the highway department expenses, so you don't have to take it out of the general fund, are you willing to lower the general fund tax levy? And Doug and I talked about this a month ago already. I says, no, we certainly don't wanna lower that general fund tax levy. We can't raise it back up.
We're already as low as,
My thought is tax enough to supplement the highway department,
right,
so we don't have to take as much out of the general fund, but we'll probably still have to pay some out of the general fund. But we certainly don't want to lower that general fund tax levy because we can't raise it back up. That'd be foolishness when we're already the lowest in the state to lower that. So I'm thinking we still supplement some out of the general fund, but we add some to that road and bridge levy to get things so it works.
Well, it's obviously, just like what you presented, revenues haven't kept up with expenses, and we haven't been subsidizing the road and bridge fund with revenues from year to year. We've been subsidizing it with cash reserves.
Yeah.
And our cash balances have just been going down and down and down. Slowly, because Jeff has put off a lot of purchases, I assume, and really scraped by, and now we've come to the point where with the road graders and that sort of thing, that we have to pay the piper at some point.
well, last year, we were out 3 weeks of paving because our paver blew apart. We couldn't, the people we called to find the part, they didn't even know what the part was. Our paver is a 92,
Absolutely, yeah.
94. It is obsolete. We were lucky to be able to find parts for it. And it's stuff like that kind of, it holds us back. And we need to build up to be able to replace that sort of equipment. And then people complain about the overlay or whatever that we do. Well, we're using that equipment.
If we do that at the Farm and Home Show, do you think there might be a need also to schedule some meetings like we did before around the county at different locations and invite the public in to see the same thing? I'm not sure you're gonna get the kind of crowd at the Farm and Home Show for an educational lesson that you're looking for, because nobody's going there to be educated.
That wouldn't hurt either. It's, like I said, without straightforward information and numbers that people can look at, it's natural instinct to reject a tax increase of any kind. But
I'm not opposed to that, I think that's great, but we need to make a bigger effort than that.
I don't disagree, but like I said,
I think it's a good start.
anybody thinks we're crazy or stealing, like I said, please come help us do budget, you know?
And that's where I say, hey, here's the fraud hotline if you have any concerns. Because
And I think too, if we do some more presentations, I think if we are going to move forward with some kind of a road and bridge levy, those numbers, it'd be probably nice to have a more definite number to give people
yes,
at that time too, so people, we have more of a, set up a range, you say, well, this is what
Would you be making the presentation, Nicole?
probably. Unless Jim wants to take over PowerPoint.
I couldn't have thought any better.
So you're gonna do a presentation and then maybe like a Q&A if we're,
That's kind of what we were thinking. I know Jim was talking Q&A. Figured we'd have Doug and Jim and Jeff and
Lots of
I was
Qs.
planning on Jeff talking more than he did.
Huh?
Lots of Qs, I don't know how many As.
Well, The A is always, I'm sorry. Every time, I'm sorry, if the numbers aren't working, you know, that's,
That's just it, we pay taxes too, man. We don't love the idea.
Well, and I think it needs to be said that with COVID and everything, this has been coming. This didn't just happen last year. And I think that has to be somehow presented in there too, that COVID come along and there was money there and
that's put
it
this off.
softened, it just shoved it down the road, is all it did.
Exactly.
What would you show that on, the same presentation if you were in the theater? What kind of a screen do they have?
So we do have a
Yeah,
big
but
They
screen.
have a projector that you can plug that right into.
Yeah,
Great big screen.
Okay.
Stage.
so I'd sit back in the screen room and talk to my, no, just kidding.
I think you need to be there.
Might be able to make it through it if I do it that way.
They have us, like I told you, Aaron Stevens is who we've been talking to with the scheduling. He kind of sets the farm home show up, or one of the ones that does. And it's just theoretically, we're still gonna do this. If it's the consensus of the board that we should, we will proceed with it. Nicole's been working hard at putting information together and has done an excellent job of digging up stuff and maybe a little more practice. She won't be as nervous as she is talking to the commissioners today.
I thought your presentation was very, very good.
Yes.
It spelled it out.
Hopefully we get to
Very
that.
I guess we could have the revenues from this tax would be in fiscal 25, right?
Yes, it would be implemented in 24, we would start collecting in 25.
Is that right?
If we get it done by July.
July.
Because then if it's referred, it could be on the general ballot.
And if it were on the general in November, could all those calculations be made in time for the 25 taxation period?
Yeah.
That soon, huh?
I like to cram things.
Okay.
I think that's the wrong way either.
Another part of this discussion, so we keep pulling that money out of the general fund. Since I've been on this board 5 years now, Will has been talking about them boilers
Yeah.
downstairs, you know, and I remember what year you said, Will, they were priced at 75,000 apiece. We've got 2 of them. They're probably $100,000 boilers now. We're gonna end
Well,
up.
I've
in some-
actually got some good news to report on that specific right here.
Good, but nonetheless, there are expenses that are gonna come up in this building, like that elevator was and stuff like that. That there has to be some money to take care of that stuff, and so supplementing the highway department so heavily out of the general fund just isn't gonna pencil out anymore.
Or you're just looking for consensus to go ahead and file a home show?
I think it's great. I think it's a good
There
idea.
we go.
Good. Are you done, Nicole?
I think that is that's it. I can,
Yeah, it was
feel
great.
free to give me feedback when we're done or
Very good.
whatever. I did take into, I took down a note that I will look into what we have to pay for a contractor to do paving or grabbing. We'll get some quotes maybe. Sure some guys can throw some numbers at me.
One of the most profound slides to me was that pie chart. Where does all of our tax revenue from the county go? And I'm not criticizing the school, but it takes a lot of money to run our school systems. You know, that's a lot of area of that pie chart. Okay, where do we leave off, Doug?
Assessor, I
They
think.
come up again.
Did we cover that presentation of the proposed wage scale?
That's next. Okay. Okay, so each of you have this document. So annually, I have to publish the salaries that is paid to all of the employees. By practice, we apply the CPI to all the employees. The exceptions are those who are members of the subsidiary boards, but that relies on what you want to do with them. So on this bottom of the second page, you'll see the 2 different boards listed. You might recall that a couple of years ago, I suggested we pay the library board better than $12 for their efforts per meeting, and they declined it. Does that conversation come up again? She says they're happy.
It's public service, truly.
Yes, it is. So, you're at a point where you either approve or we stay where we're at.
On the library board,
No, on the wage scale, so.
This is a reflection of what we worked out throughout the budgetary process
Yep.
for everyone.
Yeah, and the only thing that is unique to this one is, when the coroner requested that annual compensation.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yep, it's like the very last one, it was added at the end. Otherwise, it's the same format through and through.
the weed board, you think is okay with?
Yeah, we're not.
For that?
Well, if that's what everybody agreed to, I move we approve it.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Well,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, so just so you know, when we have salaried employees, our payroll system calculates what it's gonna be. So when you look at the top, you see on the far right, it says the 24 raw versus the 24 payroll. That's what that is. That's how our payroll program calculates it. So there you see a 4-cent difference between,
What's the 14 a quarter mean above the commissioners? That work out to?
that means that if somebody were to come in as an unskilled person, like if we hired somebody to shovel snow or something, that's what we would pay.
the minimum.
Or like if we were to hire somebody to run the site, tend to the gate, and one of those positions.
Got you covered?
Yes, that leads us to Jamie. She's got great news.
I do?
We need some.
Okay, I just had to touch base as far as my director assessor role goes. First thing, obviously you all can read. Every year I conduct a sales ratio study and then the Department of Revenue has to approve the intentions that I have according to market value. And I'm still waiting for their approval. Once I get that approval, I will report back as to what the county I may have to do. And then I got our new top dollar amounts. Any questions on those?
Have they changed much?
Crop went up, and then after last year, the non-crop went up dramatically, and now it's leveled back out and went down that same percentage. So everybody is gonna be mad for a year, and then they're gonna
No,
go, wow, what'd that girl do? Just making things, trying to correct some stuff. And then I also want to report that with that sales ratio study, it has been since 2009, since a countywide reappraisal has taken place. That countywide reappraisal started in 2009 and was completed in 2018, 2019. I would like to, and I'm reporting to you that I will be starting in the city of Miller this year, hopefully this spring, I will get started. And we'll just talk about that process a little bit more once it gets closer, when I'm able to get out and start doing that and having Nicole help me a little. And
Is that where they started in 2009 with the
Yes.
city houses?
yes, so we have quite probably half of Miller was a set, maybe a quarter to a half. Their sheets are at 2009, which obviously we've done increases since then, but that actual house hasn't been looked at since 2009. Okay, well, all of you, I want you to think of your house, what it was like in 2009. Does it look the same that it did in 2009? It may be better and it may be worse. So we need to get our eyes.
I remember you do inside and out.
Right, pictures only on the outside, no inside pictures are taken. I may remeasure some things, just to ensure that of the accuracy that we have. And then as far as
The inside, you know, everybody's like, well, what do you need to come inside for? Well, if I don't come
Finish your
inside.
basement, turn it, yeah.
Right,
kind of stuff.
and if I don't come inside and you don't let me inside and you're not happy with well, you didn't let me come inside, you know, so I did my assessment on the looks of the outside of your home. The quality of the outside looks really, really nice, so the quality of the inside is probably the same, vice versa. So, and it literally does not take long. I'm not there so long. I don't need to see every square inch of the house. I just wanna come in,
Terry
take a
Osberger,
peek.
Terry Osberger said there was absolutely no correlation between what it looks like on the outside and what the inside looks like.
Well,
Do the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that are verified inside the house affect the value too, or?
not in most cases. Obviously, it adds value, like when you're gonna resell the house. Mine is more based on dollar per square foot and, the quality, like I have to decide by looking at a structure, what the quality is and then what the condition is as well. So the quality might be really, really good, but the condition might be really poor, or vice versa. So it's a very interesting process. You guys can sure come along with me.
Should I tell my wife to stop cleaning so much and tell you what the peppy is for?
Now, we're talking a different condition there. Not everybody lives the same. So, just wanted to update you guys on that. And then, Nicole, 6 months, she's been in the office for 6 months and, she's doing very well. She's a great asset to the office. I'm very happy to have her. We're very lucky to have her here working with us at the county. Very much happy with that, so.
And she did do her evaluation.
I did do an evaluation with her,
Excellent.
Do we need to
but we
address,
talk every day and we know, what's that?
do we need to address that probation, does it come off automatically?
No, it's done by motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to take Nicole Graham off of probation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
We have 3 new federal highway infrastructure program agreements to consider. They're listed on the agenda as PCN 09LY, PCN 09A1, PCN 09A0. And I believe that we can pass these in bulk.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Craig, second by Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay.
All right, so, I have looked into CPR training and first aid training. Jim went away.
We'll be back. We'll be back.
Never lack of energy.
No.
And found out Tom Lakey is really the only person around here who does that. And he is available to join us in February. He was going to do the road and bridge February 21st. We were going to start right away in the morning. And then we were going to do the courthouse on the 22nd, on Thursday. Thought we'd do from 8 to 11. So that would be the offices, I guess really anybody who wants to join around here. He said he'd like to keep the group under 15. So that's why we're splitting it up. We will probably, are we able to keep the courthouse closed for a morning? Or do we want them to take the phones down and leave a sign on the door saying, hey, call us if you have any questions, or? Are we opposed to closing down for 3 hours in the morning?
He wants to do everyone, yeah, I mean, I get that.
Or
Can we
do it on a
Can we do half of the highway department and half of the
I was gonna say, if we
Of the
wanna
staff
split it
here or
up that
something?
way,
I don't know, I know it might screw with how you group people up for what they got going on, I suppose, but.
You'd rather do it one day and then. and
yeah,
have it.
so that
I
same
get it in the
direction,
highway department.
if
All these guys are done. They-
one of the girls in each office wants to come down for Wednesday and then one can do on Thursday and
That'd be better than closing down, since I,
folks, I feel that way too, so yeah, that would work. We can split up the guys and have half of them do it one day and half of them do it the next.
Maybe make it work.
Yeah. So, all right, so we will make it work that way. And then first aid training will be March 20th,
That'll be all one.
and that'll be everybody. Yep, all in one. He said it's mostly a video, we can set up chairs, everybody can watch together. So,
And then everyone will be certified. I see.
yeah, then everybody will be certified. Did you guys discuss the fire alarm situation anymore? Are we opposed to just getting some of those Nest ones and just sticking them up in each office?
I still feel we should wait till that person, that's my opinion, we wait till that
So,
assessor comes
oh, by the way,
and gives us where they feel like they need to be placed.
I got an email from the gentleman at the insurance company. He said, well, that's not really my place to say. He said, talk to your fire chief or the state fire marshal. And so that's who he wants us to refer to as far as placing of smoke alarms. And they always say, the center of the ceiling away from the fan, like in here, or 12 inches down on a wall, is what I found online. But, I mean, we could talk to Steve Riesel. We could talk to the state fire marshal if we wanted to. But that is the best I got from them. Doug was gonna give me a contact for the person at the people with the Historical Building Association.
We'll probably know some on a first name basis.
Honestly,
I was just on the phone with them today,
perfect.
so, yeah,
We'll have that discussion then.
okay.
Because I don't know if it's gonna cause an issue with the plaster walls. I'm assuming we're gonna wanna use like a tacky strip instead of drilling into the plaster.
Nicole, is this, will these alarms require wiring?
No, we're not talking that big of a project.
Will
I
that,
don't think we wanna go that way.
I think we can make, when we're dealing with these walls are solid concrete and plaster and tile, so
Oh, there you go.
we're not gonna run wires to them. But something that's self-contained that's on the wall, it's a safety issue. The State Historical Society is not gonna have a problem with that.
The only problem I have at all with not having them wired, which it is very hard,
Yeah,
is that someone needs to be the responsible party and check that they work, because if the building burns down and they don't go off,
right.
then that's just more of an issue than it was without having any problem. So, because the battery was dead or
See, and
whatever.
that's something that I think falls under my safety officer purview. They do have a checklist I'm supposed to go through, and check the fire alarms, check the extinguishers, check the lights once a month. And it's not a hard thing to do. So
Just has to be done,
give me a really long stick. It's gonna have to be a long
just
stick.
like the maybe deeper.
So, see, there you go.
Anyway,
But I understand that. Well, like I said, it is.
Do you remember off the top of your head what the cost was for those Nest ones?
It was like $100 a piece.
And we needed how many roughly?
So,
60.
I guess honestly, I was thinking one in each office on this floor, well, 5. And then one in each office on the courthouse and,
First and third,
yeah, first and third.
something on fourth.
So I mean, I don't think we need to go over the top and like say, oh, let's put one in the vault and put one in the office. Let's just put one in each office, don't you think?
Should be one probably in the general area too.
Well, then the general area has that,
They install one with the elevator.
has that fire alarm. So it'll catch the smoke out in the entry in the hallway. But I think the biggest question on our minds was how many baffles is it gonna have to overcome before it gets out into the hallway if it starts in an office?
Nicole, I want to address, when you come and ask us if we've talked any more about the smoke alarm,
Yeah, this is where we talk,
this is where we talk about it. It's-
Okay.
it's-
thank you,
All this discussion should be open session stuff. We
gotcha.
seldom communicate about much of anything between the commissioners outside of meetings
Okay,
that has anything to do with the city making. So if you bring us a proposal, it's up to us to approve it or not approve it.
okay. Then I won't ask it that way anymore. Sorry. But anyway, all right, well, so you guys chew on that. I know nobody wants to really take nobody wants to give me an answer on those things. So with the insurance company sending me here and there, and that might be why, it's the liability.
It feels like the right thing to do, we just have to come up with it.
Take the, and we know that Willis told me he has it in his budget to make it happen.
Just because it's in his budget
Doesn't
doesn't
mean
mean
it's
it's
in
gonna
the
get spent.
What you mean?
Well, I think, if we have the money, like, that they could come under supplies, I believe.
Right.
So, you know,
It's
So-
not that I'm
But
against
it's still
safety, but
We're not
You're supposed
trying
to
to
have
be
a culture
frivolous at
you
this
don't
point
want
in
to spend
time. I understand that. But anyway, for the future, it is the direction we're heading, I guess. But other than that, that's all I have. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I have a copy of the 3 proposals for the wall insulation project at the library, so you can take a quick packet. Yep, that one. So these came sealed and then we opened them at our library board meeting in December. And the library board, they were all very similar as far as what was going to be happening, so we went with the cheapest option, which was the Zeller Construction proposal. And so I think we just need final approval if you think that, if you agree that one was the best.
I make a motion to accept Zeller Construction.
What's the amount?
$8,832.48.
I'll second your motion.
When is this supposed to happen? I guess we've just been talking about
When
waiting on spending.
when would this be happening, Nicole?
So the other part of this project is the carpeting, where we're wanting to kind of lump these together. And we would need the wall part to be done first, because we won't be putting any carpet under the new wall. Anyway, and the carpet layer is Dwight Gutzmer, out of Highmore. And he is available in March. And we're just kind of trying to work with his availability because there aren't very many carpet layers in the area. So we were thinking Joe would probably start in February and get his part done.
This is a project you've been looking at for about 3 years.
Mary started
Yeah,
on this one, yeah.
Doug, do you think that's going to cause any problems with cash flow?
No, as long as we keep track of month to month to month, I think we'll be all right. I'll keep sending stuff mid-month too, so.
And I guess my only question Maybe I shouldn't even be questioning it, because you guys are the ones that said Zeller, but some of the other ones seem more detailed, I don't know if it. As long as we're all getting, as long as you all feel comfortable that you're getting the same thing from every contractor.
Well, and all three came into the library alone. Of course, Mike Donlin understands the whole project, but Mike Wiener and Joe both came into the library, and I had good conversations with both of them regarding the details, even like, you know, the wall's gonna run into the window. What do we want it to look like when you're looking through the window? What does that wall look like? So I thought they were all on board with doing a good job, I guess.
And I guess if your board is happy with it, that decision, I guess then.
Do we have a motion, a second? Motion and a second, more discussion on doing that. Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Okay, and then Dwight didn't have anything formal written up, but we did select the carpet tile colors that we were going to use, and he said installation, labor, everything was gonna be $19,824. This is below the $22,500 that we had projected at the start of it, so.
Can you repeat that?
$19,824.
How long would that take him?
Sorry?
How long would that take? Would the library be closed sometime?
Yep. We'll have to be closed because we're moving all of the shelves. We're estimating 10 days.
Oh.
But it depends. He has to lay the glue and then has to sit overnight, and then he puts the carpet on, and he does about 5 feet at a time, and it's a 65-foot building, so. And then we have the mess of the office spaces and all the other rooms too. to handle. But the library will be open at that point, hopefully.
Something.
We're waiting on that until we get a formal proposal or what?
Is that required?
I don't know what it is, but.
So we've only got the one, is it a proposal or a from Highmore Furniture, is that the only one we've got? And-
Yep.
And is it a proposal and not a bid? Or? is it-
Correct. We asked for proposals
Okay,
instead of bids.
well, if that's the only one we got. We need a motion to approve this proposal then?
Can we just, is that something that can be held off till, I don't, maybe we don't feel it's an issue, but.
I'd rather have it be a bid than a proposal.
Well,
Well, I came a few months ago and asked proposal or bid, and he said proposal.
What is it now?
They had
100?
changed the threshold.
It's 100 now?
Requiring bids.
Right.
Oh,
So then, yeah, it's almost like they're advocating for proposals.
oh, okay.
the biggest concern I've got with this cash flow situation is winter turns bad, really bad from here on out. And we get back to that, all of a sudden there's $300,000 or $400,000 of snow removal. Will we get ourselves in a pinch if that were to happen?
We would, if we had half of that, we'd be in a pinch.
You know, part of me says, if we have a proposal, he can, I mean, not that this can be done later in the year, I wouldn't think it came to it. I don't know.
Well, and if his availability is March, he's needing, the supplies need to be ordered.
Right, if he's gonna do it in March, but if he's gonna do it if he can do it like at the end of next year, you would just order them later, I assume, you know what I
At the
mean?
end of
The
25?
price will probably go up.
Correct, so, but about everything else we're gonna do though, so,
You took at the end of next year?
Well,
this year.
Oh, okay. I thought you said next year.
and if he's proposing doing it in March,
We probably
by
won't
that,
build
by
till
that point, we already know if we've had a lot of snow removal costs, we can say, hey, we'll just be honest, can you hold off?
He's gotta order the
But he's
stuff,
gotta order it now.
he's gotta order the stuff now and have it, I'm sure, on hand, is the only thing.
Well, and the
So is he
other
asking for
thing
money?
is, you know, if we're in debt like we were this year because of snow removal or whatever it is, is $20,000 comparable to 1.6 million or whatever, it is, you know, I mean.
Yeah, but if 100 people ask for $20,000, then it's a lot.
I agree, but that's one library.
Yeah. Do you guys have a capital improvement fund?
Do we?
It's called you.
Yeah.
You don't have one of your own?
No.
Okay.
We used our memorial funds for the landscape project, and that was a $28,000 project.
So is he gonna invoice this then right away then?
That was the question.
I would imagine, as a business owner, you would, but I,
Do we know what percent of the $19,000 is labor and what percent is gonna be carpet
I don't.
or materials?
I would assume half roughly. That seems to run true. It's real.
You think so?
A lot of times half, I mean, roughly half.
So we ended up having to pay for it nearly immediately, but we put off the actual installation until we're through the snow season. We could save half of that until we know we're safe. Couldn't we?
I suppose.
Kind of like earnest money. Throw you a little bit now, give you the rest later.
Okay.
I just don't wanna get to a point where we've had plenty of notice and then we're sitting here with a sick feeling in our stomach going, hey, we're out of money, you know, are we gonna pay a bill, right? I guess we'll handle this. Is there a motion to approve that proposal?
Can I add one more thing
Yeah,
before we
yes.
get there? The wall insulation, we had projected $20,000 for that. So that amount is much less, 8,000.
We have half of what you had projected.
Right,
Less
yeah,
than
so the
half of what
overall
you-
project is looking much less.
I move that we approve it and authorize the payment of the goods portion of the total bill upon its receipt. And if necessary, delay, at least through the snow season, the installation. That way we can at least take advantage of the price that has been offered, which I think must be competitive and isn't going to get cheaper. We sort of use that same philosophy in approving the vehicle acquisition from Lambs. It ain't gonna get cheaper at all.
To be blunt, what we're accomplishing is getting to first half tax collections. And making an assumption that everybody's gonna pay the first half tax collections. I don't right now foresee that there'll be a problem with that, but so your reword your motion, if you would, that we're gonna pay half or pay for the goods.
I think we should pay that portion of the total bill that we are invoiced, and that represents the goods that are associated with the project. And that we, if necessary, delay the actual installation. But approve it ultimately, of course.
Okay, is there a second to Jim's motion as worded?
If you talking about delaying it, we probably will incur more costs.
On the labor end of it, you mean?
Yeah.
He wouldn't honor his
Well,
proposal.
I mean, you're asking him to, when is he thinking he's going to do this? In March?
March, he said, is when he's available, and
As soon as
Mary,
he's probably available.
Mary
I see.
asked, and I don't know if I have it with me today, but this would have been like in 2020.
Yeah. it's
Mary
been-
asked him for a proposal. It wasn't a proposal, it was just an estimate. And it has not deviated for his labor. till
I
now.
can't imagine
I
it would
mean,
make much difference a few months.
yeah. And I can't speak for him, of course, but that's just,
I'll second Jim's motion.
Okay, we've got a motion from Jim, a second from Dan. Is there any other discussion on that motion? Any other concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Just a question then, if we do need, like, when will we know if we need to delay the labor? Should I come back next
Well,
month?
certainly by the end of February, yes. If it starts blizzarding and we're plowing snow twice a week or 3 times a week through January and February, we're gonna have a problem. If by the end of February, there's not much winter left, I think we can,
Then you either do it in March,
you know,
as originally proposed.
Is it fair to wait until the March meeting to tell him, sorry, can't, we can't have you
He's
next
got a long list, I promise.
You think it's fair?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's doing, just move right down the list.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you guys make that phone call.
I honestly, Hannah, and I apologize for calling you Nicole.
Okay. So I was right in keeping her on.
Honestly, Hannah, I don't foresee that happening, but we're just trying to make sure, and I apologize for calling you Nicole when you
Oh,
stepped
that's-
up to the podium.
I get called all kinds of names.
I was still running Nicole's safety stuff through my mind, but
I didn't.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Very well.
Well, one thing that's not on the agenda that probably needs to be addressed right off as you walk past it coming in is it's snowing and the highway department hit the sidewalk and busted it up. It's an accident, it happens.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, sir. They came back and put the cones up and the tape up. I've looked at it. Fortunately, the drain cap wasn't damaged. That can be reused. I've spoken with Steve Riesel about coming by and taking a look at it, giving us an estimate for fixing it. It's damaged. The damage is enough that it's going to take more than 4 bags of concrete and Quikrete and some 2x4s to get it fixed. It needs to be professionally done. But winter being winter and the temperature being the temperature, it's probably going to take a while before we can do anything with it. But, you know, it's an accident. Things happen. You get all that snow out there, sooner or later something gets hit. So I'm getting it dealt with and I'll keep you posted.
Once we get an estimate of cost, is this something our property insurance would cover?
Probably so.
Probably would have been if it wasn't our own crew that damaged it.
Well, that's a good point. Now, if we don't ask that, I was waiting before I talked to them, I was waiting to get an estimate. If we don't ask, the answer is always no. So we can at least ask.
Well,
So,
you ought to know.
what's that?
I say you ought to know, you're an insurance man.
Well, it's kind of, the insurance on this kind of thing is kind of wonky for public buildings.
Yeah.
So they may or they may not cover it. And the fact that it was a county employee that did it, I'm not, there's no point getting upset about it. I mean, the snow has to be pushed and the snow's all piled up there on the sidewalk and, sooner or later, something's gonna get hit. So that's why they call them accidents. But I will get an estimate from Steve and I will talk, at that point, I'll talk with the insurance company and I should be able to report back to you at the next meeting on that. So the next thing, the Deadwood grant application and this and the west entrance. Originally, I had this plan that I was going to combine all of those and incorporate it into a grant request to the Deadwood Society, but that's not going to work out. We have to separate them, and for budgetary reasons, that's probably for the best. My original thought was the work that needs to be done on the Clark balcony. See if we can get the Deadwood Association to pay for all of that through a grant and use the work that we would do to make the west entrance handicapped accessible and improved. Use that as match. But the Deadwood grant will not apply to the west entrance. It won't apply because it's an addition to the building. That what's built out there is outside the original footprint of the building and there's no grant money available through them. But there may be some grant money available and I'll mention that here in a minute. But for budgetary reasons, it's better that we just separate it. But instead of getting a grant for all of this, I can apply for a grant for half of this. And this out here, it really needs to be done. You know, it goes back to the original design of the building. The drain for the clock balcony went right into the drain system in the building. It lasted for 96 years and then it failed. And there's no easy way to fix it on the outside. That means core drilling and putting a downspout, putting a fabricated downspout out there that matches the building. I have spoken with Total Construction Solutions. Their guys that come up when they were here, the guys that were their subcontractor that they had to cut in the concrete and the elevator shaft. They also do core drilling, and they've given them an estimate and they forwarded it on to me. Right now, it still looks like it's $47.50. I've spoken with Bill Wallner down at the Colony. He thinks for approximately $1,400 that he can fabricate a downspout that would go at the end of the drill hole, the 4-inch drain hole, and he would powder coat it to match the building and mount it. However, I want to hold off on submitting the grant just yet. I want to finalize it. I want to double check. I want to double check those prices, that they're not going to change. See if any questions come up with the State Historical Society. I've got the draft of the grant application finished, but I want to confirm those prices. I want to get a actual written estimate from Darryl Wallner at the Colony, and I want him to verify that what it's going to cost, because the prices just keep going up on steel and the powder coating. But that's something I feel that we need to address, because what I'm doing right now, I've been out there the last couple of days chipping ice out, throwing it over the side carefully that nobody's underneath. And, that's something, and we can live through that this winter. We're looking at, if we proceed with it, we're looking at doing it in July or so. So what I would ask for you to do today is authorize I need to have the county commission chairman sign the final grant application. The deadline for the grant application is February 1st. I would ask you to authorize the county commission chairman to sign that when I have the grant application finalized in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
When will those funds be available, or they be granted this?
Sometime late in the spring. I'm not exactly sure when. And I'm asking for 50%. We're looking at right now at the moment, we've got $6,150. I'm asking for 50% of that.
But just for this?
Just for that.
On that $4,750 to drill that hole, can we really, a drill?
No.
Drill that thing?
No, this is one of those things that I've had several of our local contractors up here looking at it, and this is something that needs a specialist that has experience doing actual core drilling, because there is 5.5 feet of limestone they've got to go through out there. And they've got to get it at the right angle, and it's got to come out at the right spot out front. And they got to do it in such a manner that a big chunk of the courthouse doesn't fall off into the yard. So if we mess this up, our grandchildren are going to be explaining why we did it.
We can get some Bortle.
I think he's otherwise occupied these days.
We can also save some money this year, in the budget this year, by tolerating that atrocity on the west side for another year.
I think we're gonna have to do that, yeah. That was what I was gonna get to here in just a minute about that, which actually ties in with the radiators. But, I've got, now this is just a plan. If we don't have the money, we don't have the money. I budgeted repairs and maintenance $15,000 and professional services $12,000. and 60,000 for capital improvements. So, that's the kind of thing like the water main has to be replaced a couple of years ago. I put the money in the budget, well, there it is. We got a problem, we got to deal with it. So, I would ask, my request is that we go ahead and ask for the approval of the grant, and, with the expectation that we would go ahead with the project unless something, if it turns into $15,000, then we can revisit and tell the State Historical Society, thank you, but we're not going to proceed with it this year. But, tentative
This year.
yes, sir.
My concern with this out here is that we end up getting enough ice in there enough times that we start to push that balcony away from the well, then we'll have a problem. That's my biggest concern out there. Is nobody needs to go out there in the winter. It's just a matter of.
Well, I make a point of going out and checking it every time it snows and periodically for that very reason. And when, during the summer, you can put a submersible pump out there, which is what I do, is put a hose over the side of the building, and as it fills up, it turns on automatically and pumps it on, but you can't do that in the wintertime.
That's infrastructure. And that on the other side is a shame. We gotta deal with that.
Yeah, this has to be dealt with. On the topic of those doors, I was thinking the other day, automatic glass sliding doors that they could put an enclosure on the face of the building, maybe, I don't know.
I would like to discuss that here in just a minute. But right now, I originally thought about putting them together, but we've got budget constraints and it actually won't be, my whole plan about using the grant application process to help us doesn't apply to any of that, so that leaves us with this.
So you're just wanting approval to sign the grant at this
The
point?
grant
The
application,
grant application.
yes.
If we get the money and don't use it, we just return it, right?
Yeah, well, if we don't, what'll happen is if we don't do the thing, they won't send us the money. And I will, let's send us their portion of it. And I will get on the phone or go over and visit them and say, guys, we won't be the only people in that strait saying, we just can't do it this year. We're gonna have to put it off. Thank you for considering us. So, but right now, it's just the grant application.
Is that a consensus thing, Doug, or do we need?
I would think, I'd formalize it.
Move to approve the grant, or move to grant access or authority to the chairman to sign the grant application.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion from Dan, a second from Luke. Is there any further discussion on signing the grant application? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And that does lead to the west entrance, and that ties in with the radiators, if you'll bear with me just a moment. I've spoken with the State Historical Society. I've checked with their list of contractors and architects. I've made phone calls to several architects. Started with isolating the ones that are in South Dakota. And I found two that have expertise in dealing with historic buildings. One, I sent photographs to both of them. One got back with me and declined, and photographed the west entrance. One got back with me and declined, said they just didn't have the expertise on hand to deal with it. The other one is a architectural firm out of Mitchell. It's Civilrella. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but he specializes in Civilrella design. It's a one-man shop, and he specializes in historic buildings. And his thought was coming up with a design for the west entrance. And part of the problem that they have is that I've spoken with the door companies, and the door companies tell me that it's just with what's there right now up against the wall. Even if we take the building, even if we take all that away, putting automatic doors that are handicap accessible is just about an impossibility. It takes a complete rebuild. He came up with a price over the phone. He sent me an email about, do a complete design that a contractor can take and run with $4,000. Now, he also can, that's something that, I want to investigate more and come back with you on with a more detailed plan. I also want to find out if there's anybody else out there that might be able to do it. So far, he's the only one that stepped forward.
Are we presently out of compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act?
I think we're grandfathered in because we, consider the state that the elevator was in.
Yeah.
We're a public building built in the late, the mid 1920s. We're grandfathered in. But it would be nice to make it handicap accessible, and it would be nice to have a better entrance out there. The entrance is 20 years old. It's aged. I think it's 20 years old. It's couple of decades anyway. The entrance is aged, and it would be nice if we had a handicap entrance. But it's not something it's not in the same category as this out front. It's not a potential disaster waiting. So, what I would suggest on that is that I come back with a more detailed proposal, see if I could find any other architects and start talk with him and start to get an idea of just exactly what's going to be involved out there. We have $60,000 budgeted for capital improvements, but I don't know that that's going to even come close to covering it. And again, it might be something we need to wait on. In the conversations that I had, but what I would like to do is come back and give you I want to keep you up to date on what's going on with that. That's now separated from the balcony, and I'll come back and give you a more detailed report on it at the next meeting. In my conversations with Mr. Civarella, he came up, he suggested something else to me that applies to the radiators, I think. And that is, he specializes in maintaining and evaluating and improving and maintaining, renovating and maintaining historic buildings. That's all he does, apparently. And he offers a service for $2,500 of coming through and doing a complete evaluation on the building. And providing a long-term maintenance plan for the building. A couple of things that come to mind. One is the radiators. Another is the tuck pointing. He mentioned two things without me prompting him when I talked with him. Didn't know anything about the courthouse. He said the two big things: the elevator and the heating system. And I told him, well, the elevator, that's taken care of. That boat's already sailed. But we do have issues with it. We may have potential issues with the heating system. The other thing is the tuck pointing. 3 years ago, I had a tuck pointing contractor standing out in the front yard saying, you're fine now, but you're probably going to have to do some work in 5 years. Well, that's 2 years from now. I don't think we need to do any tuck pointing right now. I don't think we're going to need to do tuck pointing in 5 years. But and this is something we don't have to approve yet. I'll bring it back to you next month after I've done some more research on it. But I think that $2,500 would be beneficial over the long run because he could tell us, yeah, you need to do something about the tuck pointing, or you could wait another 10 years. And the radiators, what to do about the radiators. And he would know something like, well, there's a guy out in East No Name City that builds these things, and we can bring them, that kind of thing. Where we are with the radiators and the heating system, right? We've had some issues. The radiators are getting old, and we have started to we've been abandoning radiators for years. There's the two by the front entrance, one by the back entrance. There's one in Doug's office. There's one down in the sheriff's office. And now we've had one that we've had to abandon over in the assessor's office. It just started leaking. They're 97 years old, and we've maintained them as well as we can. What I would suggest that we do on this is that in July or August, we continue with our contract with GNR Control. Last year, their service contract was, for servicing the radiator was $2,970. It's gonna be over $3,000 this year, I'm sure. But when they come in, they will service the boilers downstairs. I've talked with them about under whatever we agreed to on that price, but I've also asked them, and they said they would do it. Go through the building, radiator to radiator, and check each of the radiators, and make sure that they're balanced right, that they're at the right, and see if flush them out, see what needs to be. They would do that on an hourly basis. That would be something we'd have to decide in. Well, when we get into how much we want to spend on that, when we get into the summertime, we'll just continue on with what we need to do with the, boilers.
I'm almost afraid to flush a radiator.
Well, I mean, there's some things that, I just don't want to deal with, when the radiator's leaking. If I start putting a wrench on it, and I screw it up, the building fills up with steam. The building fills up with steam with chemicals in it. We just don't want to go there. We need them to do that. Now, here's the thing about the boilers 3 years ago, before COVID hit, 4 years ago, $75,000 a piece. They've only gone up. We maintain these boilers, and I've come to the conclusion that, and I may be mistaken about this, but I think those boilers are infinitely rebuildable. They have, I keep a log of everything that I do, and just about every day I'm down there blowing the boilers down, letting some water out of the top and letting some water out of the bottom. I record that. I check the water levels. Add chemicals to it every Monday I add the scavenger and treatment chemicals to them, and I watch the water levels in the condenser tank. Over the last 3 years, we've replaced approximately 20 of the heat tubes in the boilers. 20 out of 177 in each one, so 154 in both of them, about 20 between the two of them. And I've noticed with my log that I'm not adding very much water to the condenser tank. The way I add water to the system is put it into the condenser tank, and then the pumps pump them into the boilers. So what appears to have been happening was we've had a few pinhole leaks in those heat tubes. As the boilers go, water leaks out, it evaporates because of the heat. But the only time I've gone a month without adding any water to it until I switched from the north boiler to the south boiler, which I do. I alternate them out the first of each month. When that happens, I have to add some water to it. But we found the leaks that we had. We may have some more leaks that have to be dealt with, some more tubes that have to be replaced. But we can maintain those boilers for a long time. And we can convert them to propane or to natural gas if that ever needs to be the case. Just put the burning units are sitting on the front of them. If the people that know what they're doing can unbolt them and put new ones on. But here again, that gets back to that building evaluation. I think it's something we need to consider doing a proper, this guy, maybe there's somebody else do it, an architect to do a building evaluation that would tell us, these are guys that have looked at these things, many buildings across many years, and they would be able to advise us as what we need to do. I think that would probably be, that would be money well spent. But that's something I'll report back to you next month on that.
What, has the wiring in this courthouse ever been updated?
It's been periodically updated, but it's not, the reason that the clock stopped working, I think, is because the Good Idea Ferry visited somebody back after the Second World War and decided that they would run an outlet off of the clock circuit out here in the closet. And that messed that up. And So there are sections, that, when BJ came out here to rewire all of that stuff was old, wrapped in paper and cloth, and he abandoned all of it and ran a new. So there's some good, some bad. In these offices, everything is working. But so I've got to assume that that's been updated over the years.
What I'm foreseeing happening with these boilers failing is we plug in a space heater and then we're not warm enough, so we get a splitter and plug in a second space heater, and pretty soon we've got hot wires.
So that goes right to my point about spending the money on a building evaluation by somebody that has experience and whose bread and butter in business is maintaining historic buildings. And their business is not selling equipment, but their business is advising people as to what they need to buy to maintain the equipment. I mean, what do we need to do about the electrical system? What do we really need to do about the radiators? What do we really need to do about the boilers? What do we really need to do about the point ducting? And what do we really need to do about whatever it is I've never even thought about?
Well, I just don't, I don't think we've got a electrical system in this courthouse that is gonna support heating with a bunch of space heaters, and that's where we're going. Every time another boiler fails, or a radiator fails, we're putting space heaters in there to
Well, we don't know what we don't. That's why I would say we just need to go through and, regardless of whether we get an outsider to come in and evaluate the building, when GNR Control is here, get them to service each of the radiators, evaluate, and then report to us, what do we actually need to do? There is a company over in Minnesota that still makes these things, I'm told, and sells it. They're quite expensive. You can still get one of these radiators and put it in. I mean, it costs multiple thousands of dollars to get one, but I'm told that we can replace these radiators, and that may be the most cost-effective thing to do.
When you say in your report that several radiators have been disconnected in the past, one in the sheriff's office, one in the east entrance, and one in the west entrance, are you saying that they have been disconnected and they are now not disconnected?
They have been disconnected and they're just sitting there. There's
They're
no
not
steam,
being
there's no steam going into them.
So
Just like what's happened over here in Jamie's office. They came and the short-term solution is just disconnect it and cap off the pipe so that there's no steam going into it.
I've got no idea how many BTUs one of these radiators puts out, but I'm gonna guess if you're replacing BTU for BTU, it's probably gonna take 4 milkhouse heaters or more to replace one of those radiators.
Well, one of the things that happened.
Situation where we're overloading electrical.
Well, one of the things that happened is GNR Control has been, when they came out here and fixed this, we had a leak, had a problem down in the 4-H office. In that case, the trap in the radiator was clogged and it was a little off center. They propped it up, cleaned the radiator trap out, fixed it, and Ann's got heat back in that radiator. We had a jury trial. The judge was sitting by the radiator. Well, it turns out the radiator is stuck on wide open up there, and it turned into 90. It was ever been at 90 degrees at his seat when court got started, and I couldn't turn the things down up there. The GNR came and fixed it. I came downstairs and turned the blower off while court was going on, and then turned it back on at the end of the day for a couple of days until GNR Control got out here and fixed that one up there. These are just kind of things, I mean, that is just maintenance. I mean, that's what I have those are just the kind of things we have to deal with. It was a comparatively easy fix, and they fixed it.
Are radiators still manufactured?
I'm told there's a company in Minnesota that specializes in making these things. And you're talking about that one behind you would be about $5,000 to $6,000.
To replace that?
Put a new one in, yeah. But there again, this is what we don't know. I get back to, we need to consider doing a building evaluation. I will get somebody that can advise us on some of that instead of me getting on the internet and guessing at it. And $5,000 might be the cheapest thing we can do and most cost effective. I think that, the good news about all this, but I think we can get another 20 years out of those boilers down there before we have anything serious. They're nothing more than a big box with tubes in them and a burner on the front of it. We maintain them.
Oh, that is good news.
Learn what you can about it and relay it to us. Elevator project,
Elevator project, I was hoping to come in here and tell you that the elevator project is a memory. It's not. We've got.
you know, we got out of that.
Well, it's almost done. They came down, they put the brass plaques on the walls. They went into the elevator. There's the control box that goes in the elevator. It looks beautiful, except it wouldn't fit. It's ½ inch too deep. They're going to be back to deal with that next week. It's supposedly going to be back out here next week and put that in. The other thing that came up was the light switch that everybody forgot about, including me, and I apologize. The light switch in the lobby. The light switch was wired up through the elevator shaft. They cannot do that. There is no South Dakota elevator code, but there is a national code that they go by, and the controls that they can't put it just boils down. They can't put a light switch inside there. So I've they're going to deal with that. They're going to deal with it one of two ways. They're going to put a remote control switch down there off to the side someplace that will turn those lights off, or if that's just not possible, we'll put a light switch down by the breaker box down in the basement for the middle lobby area. That gets back to the issue of how this building was constructed. Concrete, plaster, and tile. And there's no way that they can get, other than spending tens of thousands of dollars, literally, put a light switch down there in that wall, unless they come up through. They did it because when they built the building, because that was the cheapest thing to do. They probably saved 50 cents. Considering that it only cost $280,000 to build the building, $208,000, that 50 cents was a legitimate savings. So I'm hoping that by the end of next week, the elevator will be done. And at that point, they will send us a bill for the retainage of $31,437.20. And Randy has been over here, and I've gone through with him and Tish. They've inspected the elevator, and they're happy with what's been done. Except for those last two things. So we went all the way to the top to the bottom, and they're happy with it.
Blinds and Register's Office.
Blinds and the Register's Office. Well, the blinds have proved to be a little bit more complicated than I thought. I thought the Dan Bergs would be able to put them in, but they declined to put them in. They said they're just too high and they're too old. I get it.
It's too high, they're too old.
Yeah.
Did we pay them to put them?
No, they didn't pay them. They gave us a discount. They gave us a discount on that. So there's nothing wrong with that. They reduced the price. But it's I've been looking for contractors. I asked at least one over in Ace when I ran into him, and I won't mention the name, but he said absolutely not. I went by Don Nye and talked with him, and Don gave me 3 names. One of them is a local contractor that does handyman work more than anything else. And he's come over and taken a look at it. The issue with him though is he doesn't carry all of the insurance. It's Jim Kinsolving. He doesn't carry all the insurance that we normally require of a contractor. But he's local, it's a small job, and I would be with him. Is that something that you guys would be comfortable approving? Paying him by the hour to come over and put those blinds in, and I would be with him. Or would you? I talked with Doug about this, so kind of up in the air about what we can do about that. I'd like to do business with the local guy, but as the insurance proves to be a problem.
If you go through the window, or something would happen to a piece of my equipment, it would be bad.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And, because it's gotta drill into the concrete, that's the whole thing, it's not just a wood thing, it's the concrete that's, and they're gonna have to have a scaffolding almost in there to be able to work from one side to the other.
Does he have that equipment? He must, or would
He said it does, but it gets down to, if I honestly didn't think about it didn't occur to me until, that insurance would be an issue, but it obviously is. Now, that said, I've got a couple other names that I can go through and find something. It's not the end of the world. Eventually I'll find somebody. But there's a consensus that we really want a contractor that has all of the insurance. I'm sure he has some insurance. He just doesn't have enough for what we need, what we normally require.
no, we don't.
You better have insurance.
Yeah.
This day and age, yeah.
Okay.
I don't,
But it'd be all right when I find somebody that can go through with the auditor, unless just go ahead and pay them to have it done. I mean, we're talking about paying them by the hour to do it essentially.
yeah, wouldn't think it'd take that much, that many hours to put them on, but,
It's gonna take a little more than what you think. I mean, depends on how the person, but getting it through that concrete is,
think a half a day or a day or more?
well, I would think a half a day.
For somebody that knows what they're doing, about a half a day. And it may be that the thing to do is to put it on to the window frame itself. Because part of the problem is the reason that it came out, because it wasn't a concrete to start off with. So, and the hardware that comes with the blinds includes stuff for concrete and for the steel window frame. So it may be the best thing to do is go right into the window frames and be done with it. But, this is something that just me by myself, I just can't do. It just, I get it that they didn't want to climb up there and do it. This is it's a lot more than these things in here.
Well, you're a lot wider.
Yeah, we'll cover the whole window space. And it's an experiment, it's also an experiment to see what else we're gonna do with the other. Eventually, we're gonna have to replace it with other windows. It's just that those guys use their blinds a lot because of the photographs they take in there, I suspect. They use their windows a lot more, the blinds a lot more than anybody else does.
What happened to the company that we got these from? Are they still in business?
I think it was the Danbergs.
Oh, she put them up?
That's my memory too.
I think
So,
see,
just go ahead, so is it all right, I'll find somebody with the insurance.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be advisable, I would say.
Okay. All right, and that's all that I have, gentlemen. I will report back to you see if I can come up with a better plan on the west entrance. Although I think that's something, I'm guessing that's something we're gonna want to do in, not this next year. I mean, so, all right, you have any other questions for me, gentlemen? Thank you much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
We have a executive session to,
I'd like to give you an update on our mission that I was set out on. But we're gonna take a little break beforehand because apparently my computer malfunctioned and I can't shut the recording off, so.
right,
Having something.
Basically, we're
we're going to recess until Doug gets here.
Adjourn as regular, going into executive session, correct? And make a motion to adjourn
If we don't-
regular session,
What did we say?
or not?
we don't have anything left.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Put it adjourned, and we turn it off.
Yeah.
That's what you did, okay.
So, got a motion to adjourn the regular session, second by Luke. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Do you need the gavel to shut it off?
I'm on it there.
Just give it a swift kick, black tape over it. Pause and we're recording.
Get that. That top, all of it.
I don't remember this name from.
You know what the brand name is?
This,
Is it Eddie Bauer?
I think it's Columbia in there. I don't know.
I got this one at the Miller Press the other day. It's Eddie Bauer, $15.
Steal. You can't get anything.
The price tag on it was 60.
What, was she just giving them away for some reason?
No, she buys trailers from a guy. A guy buys trailers that have been tampered with, or perhaps it's hot merchandise,
Oh.
and the store will not take delivery of it. Walmart